I think that starting your planning and envisioning what you want your 2025 to look like with the question of how do I want to feel rather than what do I want to accomplish is a really important distinction that I think will really serve a lot of us neurodivergent and queer folks well.
Welcome to the Somatic Spectrum, where we explore the intersections of somatics, mindfulness, self identity, and neurodivergence. I'm Oliver Phoenix, an AuDHD yoga teacher and somatic coach, and I'm going to give you insights and actionable tips for living your most authentic and supported neurodivergent life.
Hi, I'm Oliver. The lighting is terrible today because it is December in the Midwest and it's 2:25 p.m., which means we're 75% of the way through daylight for the day. And you know what? We are focusing on getting this podcast out to you and not on the fact that half of my face is going to be increasingly more shadowed as we record this. So, if bad lighting bothers you, then I'm really sorry, and maybe jump over to listen to this on Spotify instead. You also might hear some cats in the background because, well, they live here too, and yes, that's right. I'm not the boss. That's what I'm being told right now. Cool. On this episode, I am going to share some of my reflections from 2024 and some prompts and opportunities for you to get started in the process of thinking about your year. I'll be hosting a virtual workshop called Embodying Your Desires that'll be held on December 30th. You're invited, and if you're interested in joining me there, you can head to the show notes where you can find a link to get your tickets. I love this time of year and the opportunity that it brings to take a pause, to reflect and look inward and ask ourselves what we really want in our lives and how we want to feel. I've done a big reflection, goal setting, reset every year for the last 5 years at least. And I've tried very different styles from vision boarding to SMART goals and task breakdowns to design thinking and manifestation. So by this point, I know what works and what doesn't for my neurodivergent brain. And I also noticed what is missing. The opportunity to connect these intentions to the physical body and really align our embodiment of the present with the future that we desire on a physical body, nervous system level. That's why I am hosting a workshop, Embodying Your Desires, on December 30th, where I'll guide you through reflection and deep connection to yourself through somatic practices, setting you up to embody your desires so that you can reach for your dreams in 2025, so that you can feel as supported and authentic and trust yourself that it all is coming for you, even if your life doesn't quite look like that dream life just yet. You can get your ticket at the Plink, and I really hope to see you there. Hi, friends. So I am settling back in at home after 2 weeks of travel and friendship and new friends, transformation, and a heart that is filled with gratitude. I spent a long weekend with my dearest friends in Berkeley just after Thanksgiving. It's our annual tradition, and it was full of laughter and good food and dreaming about our long-term vision for what life could look like. And as we were catching each other up on our current lives, my friend posed this question. He asked, "What have you been in the process of learning this year? And what are the ways you're practicing this in your life now?" This question really struck me because I think it does two things. First of all, I think the fact that it points out that learning is a process and that we may still be learning the same thing we started learning at the beginning of the year is an important one. And secondly, I love that the second question that goes along with it, what are the ways you're practicing this in your life now, makes a point to note that we can be learning something, but unless we're putting it into action in our lives, we're not going to see the full extent of it. And also, in asking this question, each of us had the opportunity to share really beautiful stories that painted a picture of what this learning and internal growth looks like in practice, brought externally. So, for example, my answer to this question is that I feel like this year I've really been learning a lot about authenticity. It's one of those words that I feel like people say doesn't really mean anything because it's overused. But for me, it's really important and is something that I really care about. And so I do use it a lot as I am talking about the kind of work I do, because I think that to live authentically means to be deeply connected into your internal inner self, the true self, that part of you that feels the most you. I really hope this is making sense to someone or most of you out there. And that authenticity comes from, for me, just this feeling in my chest. And the question that I've been asking myself throughout the year, continually practicing this, is how can I today show up as the person that I am in here? I think maybe what's crucial to me about this self, um, as my cat is being her authentic self in climbing the Christmas tree. Yeah. Now she's running away because she knows she's been caught. Where was I? I think the key for me about this authenticity is that the most authentic self does not have fear, does not care about what anyone else thinks, doesn't adhere to anyone else's externally imposed moral compass. And so, in that sense, when I live and act in alignment with this most authentic self, I feel such a sense of freedom and ease. I don't think that that's what I expected would be the biggest benefits of being my authentic self. I think if you had asked me at the beginning of the year or at the beginning of my yoga teacher training, where I went in with that as my goal to be my authentic self, I think if you'd asked me then what I thought I would feel if I was being more authentic, I think I would have said that I would feel more accepted or find it easier to make or have community. I think I was hoping that on the other side of fear about what it would mean to show up as my authentic self, I was hoping that on the other side there would be acceptance and less people pleasing. I think those are actually byproducts, honestly, of doing the work itself, or that those are things that are in part fulfilled in action and in part being accepted or finding community is still an outcome over which I do not entirely have the control. Although it is true that since really leaning into that authenticity, I have met more people and become friends with people who I was able to connect with because of our neurodivergent experiences or shared identities in ways that if I hadn't been as forthcoming about those aspects of my identity, may not have been. But still, going back to this, the realest gift of authenticity for me have been the sense of relief, freedom, and ease that I've felt this year in just going about my life. It's not to say that the external things are easier. I mean, I still face fear when showing up on the internet every day. It's still a choice I have to make to be vulnerable and to be my authentic self and not hide it behind something else. But when I think about what it's brought me, the internal gifts have been that sense of freedom in knowing that the world is wide open to me. Living as my authentic self is as in alignment with the universe and who I was meant to be, who I am, as I can get. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing and a beautiful lesson that I've learned in 2024. I also know that I would not have gotten here if it weren't for using these somatic practices and yoga and movement in my daily life. Having these practices as part of my day gives me something to anchor into at the start of every morning. It gives me ways that I can take care of myself in situations where maybe no one else has the capacity to, or if I really am alone in the situation, then it's something that I'm able to give myself. And I also just have such a greater awareness and attunement to what my body is trying to tell me, to the sensations that I'm having, to the indicators of sensory overwhelm or exhaustion, or when a headache is coming on, or when my social battery is running low. And in those situations, not 100% of the time, but often I'm able to take literally 30 seconds to a minute and a half, start doing a somatic practice right then and there. And oftentimes it helps enough that I'm able to either continue going throughout my day or it gets me to my next resting stop where I'm able to then slow down, recalibrate, and come back to a place of stability in my body and my nervous system. So for me, authenticity has been this big learning and ongoing practice that I have devoted myself to this year. I'm curious to know what yours has been, what you're in the process of learning, what you are practicing in your life right now. And if that's something that you'd like to and be willing to share in the comments, I would love to hear it. As we near the end of the year, I'm beginning to reflect on 2024. I encourage you to do the same. And I also want to give you a chance to do so with me. So I'm hosting a live workshop called Embodying Your Desires. This will be a workshop that is designed to activate your dreams on a mental, physical, and spiritual, emotional level with a somatic approach to goals and intention setting. You'll leave with an understanding of why embodying your intentions with sensation and feeling within your body makes your actions toward the life you want to live more powerful. You'll also get clarity on what you want out of your year in 2025. Not just the goals or targets to aim for, but how you want to feel as you live life in the direction of your dreams. And lastly, of course, we'll do some somatic practices during the workshop, and you'll leave with some specific practices that you can incorporate into your day in order to support you in embodying your desires. If you're interested in joining me in the workshop, you can get the link in show notes to grab your ticket. I would also love if you shared out this episode and the workshop with your friends who you know have a yearly ritual of reflecting and planning for the new year, whether it's in a woo kind of way or not. I personally have been doing a big goal setting, review, planning process every year for at least the last 5 years. And I've tried everything from SMART goals to design thinking to task breaking down into chunks to manifestation. And what I've found was missing is bringing in the body, because there's so much of our emotional and memory experience that's stored in the body. I think it's really important to also make this a part of our reflection on our year. And it's also a really potent way to set intentions in more power, and is something that I think for my particular relationship with ADHD and autism, having specific feelings that I want to embody, or having envisioned ideas of what my desires and my dream life look like, makes it easier for me to take actions and make decisions towards this reality that I want to live in on a daily basis, in a way that to-do lists and planners are not always the most motivating, although I do love a good planner. So all of this to say, I think that this workshop is going to be really special, and I've been putting so much work into it, and I'm really excited to share it with you all. I think that starting your planning and envisioning what you want your 2025 to look like with the question of how do I want to feel rather than what do I want to accomplish is a really important distinction that I think will really serve a lot of us neurodivergent and queer folks well. I know there are probably some of you, like I have felt at some points, where it might feel hard to envision 2025 being a good year for you. I get that this is the case, and the world around us might not be looking so hot right now, but there are also glimmers of light, you know? And what's important, I think, is that you develop ways to support yourself and your communities, regardless of what the world looks like around us. Something that this workshop will give you, for sure, is walking away with practices that allow you to be with yourself and your feelings, whatever they may be, that come up in reaction to the news and world events. And these practices help you create the internal space that you need in order to feel these emotions and allow them to cycle through and process through the nervous system, so that they don't get stored as trauma that's going to come back in a bodily way and have more further continued negative impacts on your life. And these practices, when you use them regularly, really help to keep you grounded when you need it. They can energize you when you need more energy. They can help you feel supported in yourself and giving yourself that support, even when you're not finding that in other places. So, in this way, I think that having a somatic and embodied approach to thinking about your year is as important this year as it is any year, and even more so to have this approach now. By anchoring your desires into your body through these somatic practices, you'll be able to feel the way that you want to feel now in the present. And so, even if your desires or your dream life or the ideal seems far off, we can still work towards prioritizing how you feel in the moment in a way that's in alignment with those bigger desires and dreams. And by locating and being able to cultivate that feeling in yourself, it can help act as a guide, as a compass for taking actions in the present and making decisions that will align with your desires and where you want to be in the future. One other thing I really love about this somatic and embodied approach to goal setting and planning is that your body contains the secrets to what's really at the root of your goals and desires. So, by getting into your body, you might find something different than what you thought was important at first. And this can be really meaningful because I'm sure we've all had this experience where you have a really big goal, you work hard and you push yourself and you finally made it, and you're standing there waiting for the feeling of triumph. And instead, all you get is a like, that's it kind of feeling. That's what we don't want. And I think that by starting with the feelings, we get to use those as a guide along the path. That experience of thinking that achieving something would make you feel one way and then have it not feel like we thought it would, especially when during the whole lead up and the whole process of getting there, we were out of alignment with ourselves, or we were pushing ourselves into burnout or into a state that wasn't sustainable or conducive to how we wanted to show up in the rest of our life. That can feel really defeating, and it can feel really anticlimactic, and an experience like that can discourage you from going after other goals you have. So, in starting with somatic practices, in starting with asking yourself how you want to feel, we get to use those feelings, those emotions, and those sensations in the body that are in alignment with our desires, that are embodying our desires. We get to use those as a guide along the path. With every action we take, every decision we make, we're checking in with ourselves, and we're making those action steps in and from a place of how we want to feel, so that it's not just a checkbox, so that it's not just something we're doing because we feel like we have to, but in the moment, it becomes something that we're doing because it's in alignment with our desires. It's something that we're doing because it is an expression of the desire that we have for our life, the ways that we want to live and show up in the world and connect and grow and transform. And I think that that is really beautiful and makes for such a rewarding look back at the year. Bringing this back around full circle to my lesson for the year, it is so rewarding to sit down and reflect on all of the ways that I have practiced showing up authentically this year, rather than just looking at a number of how many Instagram followers I have or what my business revenue goals were. I can tell you that the moment that I start making my decisions and taking action from a place of how can I show up authentically today? How can I serve the people that I want to serve? How can I be a channel for what people need to hear today? It just 100% changes my experience, both in the present and in the future, the ways that I look back at the life that I'm building and how I'm getting there. That's something that I want for you too, and I would really love to see you at this workshop. You can head to theoliverphoenix.com/embodying your desires to get your ticket, or like I said, link will also be in the show notes. Leave a comment if you're going to be there. Leave a comment if anything I said in this resonated with you. Leave a comment with your own reflections on what you've been learning in 2024. I hope that you are having a good start to your holiday season. I hope that you find some time to look inwards and reflect on what this past cycle has brought you and what you want to step into in the new year. Thanks for listening.